Welcome to Mending Threads, a transitional series. This is your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness. Today we have two special guests. We have Miss Alice Shaw of Spiritual Counseling Center, and we have Ms. Missy Hamilton of the Human Trafficking Division, and that's going to be something special for us to look at as to how it all fits together. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're with our first guest, Miss Alice Shaw, a spiritual counselor. And so I want to welcome you to our show.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. You know, I wanted to start off by just asking you some experiences that you had going into the spiritual counseling area, some things that you have experienced related to our show, Transformation. Could you share some of that with our audience?
Yes. Many years ago, about 10 years ago, I got sick, but I recovered through therapy, doctor's help, and medical assistance, and also marriage. I was divorced, so after divorce, I went through a lot, struggle with financial and direction. It's like, where am I supposed to go from here with two boys?
But it sounds like it was both physical, spiritual, and mental that you were going
all
through.
Together.
All together. So how did you, I was just wondering, how did you know what you were going through? How did you experience? Because I know that, you know, we were talking about how stress is determined and the trauma as to how it affects your body.
Yes.
So how in fact did it affect you? How did you know?
Well, I'm a pretty good eater. I'm very healthy. But when stress comes, I lost my appetite. I try to eat, but I can't. I know I'm hungry, but I can't. And I feel ache. I feel body ache, my heart ache. I just feel pain everywhere. You know, you just don't know how to make it go away. You take Tylenol, you take pain medication, but the pain is just here somewhere. You know it's right here, but you just don't know how to.
So then we could really say, and that must have been an awful experience for you to go through at that time. But I think that we could probably even call that trauma.
Yes.
Those were really symptoms of some kind of severe stress and trauma.
Yes.
You know,
I used to be a very good sleeper. You know, I can sleep through the night. But after the situation, I can't sleep. So I wake up in the middle of the night. You know, you feel this sweat, this anxiety, and the body ache.
So you had all of the symptoms.
Yes, yes.
Of
and
that.
then part of it, it's like you cannot stop crying. It's like part of it. You cry, but you don't know how to stop.
You don't know. It's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
So I guess it is something sort of we talked about a little bit earlier before the show about spirituality, and that it's actually when you render yourself that you cannot control it yourself, and that you must then begin to look at something a little bit differently, you know, something that you have to hold on to.
Right. So when I was in my weakest part, I feel I need to pray.
Yes.
It's my faith that could give me the strength to move on. So each time when I see the stress is coming, I know it's coming, it's going to hit me again. I calm myself down, I meditate, and I pray. And I pray to the higher power to give me the strength for me to move on.
Yes.
And because I got 2 kids, and I want to be a better self, and then please lead me, guide me. Where's my direction, the path? Let me see the future. You know, let me have the strength to move on.
And so how did you, when we speak of transformation to transcendence, how did you what helped you transcend once you did your meditation and you went through this whole thing? How did you know you were transcending? How did you know you were moving into transformation? You know, we talk about this, you're like my butterfly, you said.
Yes.
So, you know, you transform and you have to go through the stages in the process to become a butterfly. How did you know you were becoming?
I start to look
What
at
did you
things.
do?
I observe myself. Who am I? Why am I so sad right now? He's not part of my life anymore, and I should move on. So when I start to look at myself, to take care of myself, to believe who am I, and I want to change. I don't want to be like this every day. I cannot live my life like this every day. I got go to work. I got things to do, but it's mental stress. It just won't. It's kind of pull me back. I try to move forward, try to pull me back.
Yes.
So I find using forgiveness of what he done, and I move on to my life. The ex-husband.
Oh,
you know,
ex-husband.
After I divorced, I try to forgive, because when I forgive, I let go that anger, and I start to accept what is not here anymore. I'm single again. Sometimes you don't accept the situation, and then once I accept, I'm ready. But the part is I need to forgive before I can say, okay, I forgive you. And then it's me.
And let go of that anchor, and I find that's the most important thing.
And then that's when I know I transformed. Because I feel like I can fly again, just like a butterfly. And then nobody's gonna stop me anymore. So I excel, and I move so quick. And I focus on my study, and then start to become a medical assistant, and from there spiritual counseling, and then volunteer. I run. I feel like I'm running. I feel like I'm out of a cage. Like a bird.
That's a good way of putting it.
And I flew out, and here I'm here today. I feel like I can help more people, more women or different ages, anybody. That they go through the same pain. And I have clients who comes to my office. They are so afraid. Should I get a divorce? Should I not? I have that fear. A fear of where am I going to be okay? By myself with 2 children.
If I make this change and it's new and it's uncertain.
It's like, is this going to be okay? The fear. So I told my clients, once you have that fear, that's gone. You feel like, wow, I'm stronger now. I can move on. So that's when I know I transform, because I feel like I can breathe again. And I can eat again. You know, I start to eat. And that's how I know.
And so it's sort of like creating a balance, and then you're now answering those questions. And I made some note of the questions that you had, and it was like, what then is my calling, so that I could become happier, healthier? So you were answering that, and then you even found what were my barriers, and how did I address my barriers through meditation. But it was really being with yourself. Not moving away from yourself, but being with yourself and answering those questions within you, and being able to accept it in that moment in time. You know, for forgiveness to even happen, you see.
Yeah, so it's like a memory of me. You know how we store our memory in a cabinet file? It's in here. But it's not forgetting. You know, you cannot forget, but it's there. But it's okay to be there. Because sometimes I will take the file out, I think about it. It's what I experienced to become who I am today. And sometimes I kind of thought about it, pretty grateful what I went through. Because what I went through, it made me stronger. It made me wiser.
Kind of like, you know, I talk to some of my patients sometimes. It's sort of like retagging. You mentioned in the cabinet. Sort of like relabeling the thing and giving different meaning to that. And it's almost like even doing, like maybe looking at it as a learning or a lesson to move you forward as you look back. So it's really propelling you forward.
And then each day it's very challenging, but I find now I like the challenge. Because the more I challenge life, I learn more, and I think I get smarter each time. and I meet more people when I go out to the community. I learn from the people who are more in their profession and their life and their stories, and the more I learn, it got me stronger, and I feel really appreciate and grateful what I have right now and what I can give.
Yes.
My service, my constant service to the people, and I know when I see them get better, it's very rewarding, because I know if I can go through this, if I can transform, I can help someone to transform.
That's
and then when they transform, they call me, Counselor Shell, I can laugh today. I said, what happened? I find my way. I let it go already, and they start laughing on the phone, and we become friends.
Doesn't it make you feel good? Yes, it makes you feel so good. Yes. It even gives more meaning to what life is all about.
And it gives more meaning,
true meaning,
right?
True meaning of what it's all about.
And help them through find their own life. Everybody's different. Everybody have their own path. But once you guide them through that, you see them grow.
And as you go through it, as you grow through it with them,
together
you grow. That's right.
Yes,
you're growing at the same time that you're sharing and giving.
And then I think the most part that I really like, it's when my client comes in, when they want to cry, but sometimes if they are male, I'm a female, it's really hard for them to cry in front of me, and I say, it's okay, let it out. You can cry. You say, you sure I can cry? I'm like, God, yeah, you can cry. So we hold hands, cry. But crying is good.
Yeah.
It's not weak. Crying, it's kind of let go, and you're feeding.
It's accepting your strength.
Yes, and then after crying, they start talking and share experience. And I'm so glad they trust me. They share their most private story, but that's the only way I can connect with them. Because if once they share what's really deep in them, I will try to understand it and help them to get out.
Pull it out.
Yes, not in that little small cage anymore.
Even to know that that's the reason why you have the tear ducts in the first place.
Yes.
To really appreciate your body and all that you have to go through at that particular time. Okay, I'm really enjoying talking to you. We're going to do this some more.
Thank you.
I think we should do this some more. I think as we move through the stress and transformation development, that we should look at different stories and look at how we could actually help people get in contact with their healing process.
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you for having me today on the show today.
Okay.
Thank you.
When I was 15, I thought I was the best singer since Beyonce. And I wanted to go to Hollywood and make it really, really good. Well, a lady came to the school and she was passing out flyers asking for auditions at this motel at 10 o'clock at night. Now, my mom and daddy, they were very protective. I took the flyer to them and I said, Mama, Daddy, can I go? Of course they said no. Well, me being me, the singer that I thought I was, I sneaked out that night. And I took the car that they allowed me to drive to school. When I went to this place, the motel, it wasn't the seediest place, it wasn't the best place, but it was just a motel. I went in, there were 2 rooms, and they had me to sit. Well, I snuck out. It was already 10:30. I had to get back before Mom and Daddy, woke up. Well, all of a sudden they said, here, why don't you take this to drink and, you'll feel better. Now, Mom and Daddy always told me never to take an open drink. Well, the bottle was closed, so I opened it and took it. All of a sudden, I started to feel real woozy. And I knew I had to sing, and next thing I knew, I woke up. I was in this room with some more girls. And I looked around and I said, what's going on? Where am I? What's going on? And they said, oh, so you the next one. So what do you mean? Did you really think you were coming here to sing? girl, you're going to become a worker just like us. Now, I didn't understand what they were talking about. They said, you're finna have sex. Now, I was a virgin. I didn't know anything about that. They even brought me outfit to wear and said, tiny, tiny shorts. All my top was out. I said, I can't do this. And I started to cry. They said, yeah, we've been here for about, one girl said she'd been there like 3 years. Another said about 6 months. One said a year, and they just didn't know. They couldn't go because they took the ID. They didn't have a telephone. They couldn't call their parents or anything. They all had to have sex in this room. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. All of a sudden, I heard all this commotion outside. And I tried to look out the window, but the windows were blocked. The police burst in the door, and that was my mom and my daddy. You see, they had put this GPS on the car and on my phone, and although they took my phone, the people did, my parents were able to call the cops, and they were able to track me down. I was mad when they first put that on my phone because I was 15. I didn't need nobody knowing where I was, but I was so happy. You see, I was saved. See, my parents Mama always said, girl, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I kept telling those other girls that no matter what they were going through, they were still fearfully and wonderfully made. I kept saying that over and over and over. So when they burst in the door, I was just empowered. I was almost a victim of human trafficking.
I want to thank Miss Alice Shaw for being with us. It was such a special experience. And I want to welcome our next guest, Miss Niecy Hamilton. Miss Niecy Hamilton is one of our outstanding, well-known community leaders in terms of human trafficking. And I'm so pleased that she gave us some time today to be with us so we can become more informed about that and even more preventive. So tell me how you got into this whole topic of human trafficking. You know what I did? I looked up in preparation for your visit that there was 300 back in sometime 2016. Now you know it's more. 313,000 persons who were reported as being trafficked here in Texas.
That's true.
So now, can you tell me more about how you got involved with this? And
So I've been a human trafficking activist for a little over 10 years, actually. I was trafficked in Houston as a child, and it was actually my...
you don't look any more than 16.
Everybody says, God will restore you, okay?
Right, okay.
He will give you back everything, the former one, the paper one, the counter, and the love is so funny, so thank you, Jesus. But, yes, it was my Navy recruiter who actually told me that I had been sex trafficked because I did not understand, and he didn't say the terminology sex trafficking. He just was like, you do understand you've been pimped out, and that that was the language because that's all they knew. They the military wasn't designed to deal with issues of moral turpitude. And at that time, it was still an issue of moral turpitude. You weren't allowed to be a prostitute and go into the military.
Yes.
And so here it is, as one of the Navy's first known prostitutes going into the military. It's like, whoa. So.
So that how do you talk about that? That must have been a traumatic experience. Is it sort of even difficult for you to talk about it this morning? Or how have you made sense of that for yourself?
Well, it's not difficult for me to talk about it anymore. Before, it was because I had a slave mentality. I had grown accustomed to listening or just being around people who were making decisions for me. And I quickly learned that I was not a decision maker type of person. And when you're around somebody like that, when they can't make decisions on their own, when they're constantly leaning towards what other people want them to do, that they function best when people tell them what to do, then that's a slave mentality. And just to break that cycle of it's like, oh, okay, let me go back to where this first started so that I can become a decision maker over my own life. You know, just taking back that control. Because typically people who have been controlled don't know how to gain control. Whereas when you see cases in domestic violence, study shows that when women who have been domestically violated don't deal with the violence of what happened to them, they inadvertently revert to becoming the person who was violating them. They become just like them.
Just like them, and their response to it.
Right, and they do that. And so, you know, in human trafficking, it's different. It's like, you know, there are cases where girls who have been trafficked go and recruit girls, other women, right, to be trafficked as well, because that's how they were introduced. And they make all these excuses for why it needs to be done that particular way, but typically, that's not the lifestyle. You have to be indebted to become a recruiter. You know, it's not necessarily a psychological thing.
Is it sort of a way to? We were speaking earlier about stress and trauma, and one of the things that we're doing a battery intervention prevention program for men, and then the women who consider themselves to be victims. And so we receive many of the people who had been human trafficked. So one of the things that they do is they talk about the stress and trauma that they had in their previous life, which really connected and led them. Their response to it, in a sense, the way they reacted to it, led them in that way. How would you, can you give some explanation of that?
So, I do deal a lot with, my expertise is rescue and recovery, and then entering back into general population.
Yes.
And my main thing is helping women find jobs, because I have an MBA in HR, and so I do a lot of studies on making sure that girls get back into normal life. And what I've learned during the recovery process is it is very hard for them to turn it off. Okay? It's like everything is sexual. From the time they wake up and brush their teeth is sexual. When they're taking a bath, it's all sexual. To the time they're introduced to a person, is sexual, because for them, because somebody's been telling them what to do and how it's been done, they never got a chance to sit down and be released from the ideas that they can control the situation. And so now you have to go back in there and retrain them. You know, it's just like, it's just, for instance, you know, if I'm in the market and I'm used to selling my body, because there's two people you listening to yourself, and then there's the God idea. God is saying, listen, I don't want you to get rid of sales, because mind you, you've been selling your body. I don't want you to get rid of the sales part of you. What I want you to do is to come to me, to be healed, so that I can give you sales, and so that you can appropriate your talent in a workspace that is conducive to your talent
and to what I want you,
to what I want you to do.
That's
exactly,
right.
Exactly. And so the confusion comes in: who do I serve? God, a man?
So see, we were talking about transformation as being changing your thoughts, changing your whole way of thinking. And so you have to connect that to what you do. And so what you're speaking about is the development of a belief, a whole new belief system. You see, and then working that belief system in a different manner to value is called inside outside.
Absolutely. The reason why human trafficking is so diversified and included today, especially in 2020, is because it is a social divisive issue. Now, we didn't just start dealing with social divisive issues. We've been dealing with social divisive issues since the days of Moses, you know. And when the Israelites were free, and they were in slavery for 400 years to the Egyptians, and they came out and they were still doing things that they thought they needed to do to reach a higher level. They were serving the fatted cow, they had the golden calves, you know, they did everything but God. You know what I mean? And so, and Moses is like, well, hold on, wait a minute. why you down there? Look, soon as he turned his back, his brother was down there running the strip club.
Yes,
He's like,
right.
hold on. Aaron, why these girls down there dropping like
There's something else we can do.
And so Moses like, hold on, I need to go back to the rock. You know, I need to go back to the mountain and pray. Because this, you know, when God told me that I was gonna be the leader of the pack, I didn't know that I was gonna be introduced to social divisive issues that I had to maintain and manage. Okay, so Moses is our first leader in crisis management.
In crisis management, that's right.
You know, and so this was a big idea because human trafficking was evident back then. And how do we know that? When Moses went to go to the promise to seek out Jericho, he sent 12 spies. 10 of them came back and said, well, we like grasshoppers to these people. We can't take these people. But 2 of them came back, which was Joshua and Caleb. And it said, no, them people like grasshoppers to us. And that moment when we heard Joshua and Caleb, who did Joshua and Caleb run into when they got into Jericho? Rahab. Rahab was the first African American woman who had been sex trafficked in the Bible, that the Bible tells us about. And she was so prominent in what it was that she did because she was the first woman to have a seat at the table. Not only was she a prostitute, she was a war hero and a war strategist. And we forget about that because we only talk about where she had been. We forgot to mention where she was going. And that is the thing. Exactly. Exactly. She was the 21st century Harriet Tubman, you know, and we forgot to see her in that way. And that's why God said he is no respecter of persons. I said that to say this, to give you an idea of what the girl's mentality is like. If we only talking to the girls who have been trafficked from where they are in life, but we never get them a glimpse of where it is that they're going or how to actually hone into that talent.
Where they can go.
Yes.
Where they can go. You know, their possibilities to help them create.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And when we don't do that, what happens is, and this is not a fear to God, this is a warning sign to us because remember, Moses already dealt with this. What happens is you have girls who are birthing out a generation of a people who become godless.
And I see
and
it,
they
I'm
can't serve.
They
can't serve God because they don't know Him. Because Mama wasn't connected to Him, even though He said, "Listen, I knew you when you were in your mother's womb, but I need to regain a connection with you."
You know, it's just silence. We got to do this again.
Of course.
We have to get into this. You know, we're getting ready to do a series on spiritual women.
Wow.
Okay, and we're going to do a support group. So one of the things that I do, I want you to just sit right here while we just say, also give meaning to the drama. The little skit we just saw, Sister Mama Sonia.
Yes, I love her.
I know she did. She's so expressive. She did a skit entitled, I wrote it down, "Fearfully and Wonderfully Made," and she's with the Three Sisters in the Spirit Theater Ministry.
Awesome.
And so we will have her. Thankfully, she will explain many of the different trauma and stressful situations that we encounter. So I do want to invite you back. I want to thank her for doing that. And maybe we could draw some meaning, what you've explained, the meaning of what she then displayed during the training is that people really did not see the development that they could appreciate. You know, her parents, and she did have that. And that she then kind of used her development at that time of being a teen to want to have what she wanted to do. But did she not find appreciation in that? And it also showed the stress that she encountered, the fear, and to move her in the direction that she needed to go. Okay, so I wanted to show that. She's also going to be at the Restoration Life Project is going to do Christ Church Cathedral, 1117 Texas. I want to say at 8:30 in the morning, but if you just say some words like Niecy Hamilton, or you saw it on this show, that may get you, and I think it will get you a discount.
It certainly will.
And then I do want to say thank you for being here, and please come back.
I will.
And I'm going to offer all of our guests to come back, but I want you to come back so we could really get into the women and how we could actually help heal and bring transcend
Yes.
the situations and bring fullness and help create possibilities in today.
Amen.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
an honor.
Oh, I want to thank our visitors today, Miss Alice Shaw from the Spiritual Counseling Center, Sister Mama Sonia from Three Sisters in the Spirit, and Miss Nisi Hamilton of the Human Trafficking for Community Leadership. I want to thank them for being with us today. I want to leave you with some touch points that we covered, just a few. One is that the way we think actually changes our lives. If you want to change your life, then you want to change the way you think in our thinking process. And we want to develop some beliefs. So think of this: renew our beliefs, rebuild our faith, and reconnect with families and communities. And it is not the circumstances that we meet. It is the manner in which we respond to the circumstances that heals, change, and creates happiness in our lives. I think next week we'll have an interesting group of people. We'll be dealing with sexual abuse, but we'll also get a further insight into how spiritual development affects what we do in our lives, and how to step by step bring about a change with stress and transformation. Okay? Any questions you may have, please send it to ips.health1, the number 1 at gmail.com. And if you have somebody you'd like to see on the show or some questions about anything we've discussed, please feel free. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you on next week.